The competition is heating up in your fantasy football league, and as you try to pull away or play catch-up with a grueling week of trades, waiver pickups, and lineup tweaks, don't forget, let your loved ones know that you're still breathing with bouquets from 1-800-Flowers.com. Take it from me, nothing tops the excitement of a 1-800-Flowers bouquet, and right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, 1-800-Flowers will give you another dozen absolutely free. That's 40% off the original price. This beautiful bouquet of 2 dozen roses in a rainbow of colors will leave your loved one stunned without spending a fortune. It's the best of both worlds. Amazing roses at an unbeatable price. These gorgeous roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. A dozen multicolored roses for $29.99 plus another dozen free. It's an incredible deal and a small price to pay with all your fantasy league winnings. There's 1-800-Flowers.com and there's everybody else. You know who I trust when the game's on the line. To order a dozen multicolored roses plus an extra bouquet for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Mike. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Mike.
America, it's time for some straight talk. You love your phone. Look at you. You hardly put it down. But you don't love that expensive wireless plan, do you? So what if I told you can keep that phone, network, and number 2 for a lot less? Well, this is me telling you. It's time to switch to Straight Talk, guys. Bring your own phone and get unlimited plans starting at just $45 a month on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
We are presented by Progressive Insurance. We'll have tons of guests this morning on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line as we continue. Jeff Saturday in our studio this hour, Booger McFarland with college football conversation and more. In our next hour, Donovan McNabb, later today, Carl Douglas, former attorney for O.J. Simpson, who was released from prison in Nevada over the weekend, will join us coming up as well. I will update you now just quickly on what we're seeing in headlines, because like everyone else, we are horrified by the events overnight in Las Vegas. For those of you who have not heard, what appears to have been a lone gunman opened fire on the Las Vegas Strip during a country music festival in Vegas, and it is now being described, unfortunately, if you're just hearing this for the first time, I'm extraordinarily sorry to be reporting these details in this way, but it's being described by CNN as the deadliest mass shooting in American history. At least 50 people killed and more than 200 injured in a shooting outside the Mandalay Bay Resort on the Strip during a music festival Sunday night. Shots were fired from the 32nd floor of the resort, according to police. Country singer Jason Aldean was performing at the time. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Sheriff Joseph Lombardo named the suspect as a 64-year-old man by the name of Stephen Paddock. He was described as a local resident. The suspected shooter has been killed. Lombardo said police have tracked down Paddock's female companion. And those are just some of the details. Obviously, there's news and information about that to be found in a variety of different places. But as we sit here, and again, we'll try today, as always, to entertain you and take your mind off of what feels like a never-ending onslaught of tragic and frightening events. This one goes right up there near the top.
It's just, you can't even fathom it. You're at a country music festival enjoying yourself, and the next thing you know, first people thought it was fireworks. Thought it was just a lot of fireworks going off, so you still don't think anything's wrong. And then when that realization hits you, I mean, these poor people had no idea where it was coming from, really no idea of where to run, just to run. I mean, it was just mass confusion and chaos, which would be understandable. And when 32 floors up, there's one guy just laying down gunfire. I mean, it's horrible. You know, I'm hearing people talk about we're running and someone still thought it was fireworks. Then he said he was hit 3 times in the chest, and they had to get him to an ambulance. Another person described someone dying in their arms, and I mean,
there's no way to know what to say at a time.
Horrible. I can't even think of what to say if it goes through someone's mind that wants to sit up on the 32nd floor and just start shooting at people they don't even know, just shooting. I mean, I don't get it. And yet here we are with one of the worst ever. And so many lives have been ended and changed forever. It's ridiculous.
There's nothing else for us to say. Again, this is developing as we go as far as some of the reports coming out of Las Vegas. And so we'll allow other people to cover that story because they're obviously equipped to do it. And if you're here with us this morning, it's because you want to hear us talk about sports, primarily football. And so we'll go back to doing that. And I wanted to give you some numbers on DeAndre Hopkins because as I watched him play yesterday and I watched a little bit of his post-game interviews talking about the rookie quarterback, I said it earlier, yesterday, I said it, one of the great mysteries that will never be solved is why Deshaun Watson didn't start the season this year in Houston as the starting quarterback. Tom Savage started that first half, and he has been Wally pipped in every way that you can be.
Sure.
That's Deshaun Watson's team now for the foreseeable future and maybe for the next 15 years. But I'm bringing that up because I remember Hopkins was firmly behind Savage.
Oh, Savage, absolutely, yeah.
During the preseason, which just shows you he's a good team guy.
Well, plus there's just trepidation with a rookie. No matter how good a rookie looks, you know you're going to get rookie mistakes. And they at least thought with Savage, while he wasn't a grizzled veteran of many, many starts, he'd been in that system and knew the system. So I get it. Nobody wants to go in and say, yeah, we got a rookie quarterback starting, and a lot of people favor us to win the division and maybe make the Super Bowl, but we have a rookie quarterback starting. That really usually doesn't go hand in hand, so I get what he was saying.
But let me give you some numbers on just how good DeAndre Hopkins is. There are only 5 players with more receiving yards than he has since he came into the league in 2013. They're Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Demaryius Thomas, T.Y. Hilton, A.J. Green. They've all had, for the most part, stable and consistent quarterback play. DeAndre Hopkins has caught passes from 10 different quarterbacks in that stretch of time. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Brian Hoyer, Brock Osweiler, Matt Shaw, Brian Mallett, Case Keenum, Tom Savage, T.J. Yates, and Brandon Weeden. Obviously now, hopefully they have found the guy who's going to be their guy, but Deshaun Watson is the 10th. Those previous 9, not a lot of Hall of Famers in that group. So for Hopkins to have put up the numbers that he has with that kind of inconsistency and less than spectacular quarterback play, it goes to show you how, I think right now, my personal opinion is that guy's as good as basically any of the other receivers
he's
we
been
talk
the constant.
About.
Remember early on when they had 3 tight ends that were out with concussions, Will Fuller just made his first appearance of the season yesterday, so he had been the lone constant out there, and because of that, he has been targeted the most this year in the NFL. He's been targeted 49 times, Antonio Brown 45, Larry Fitzgerald 41, Des Bryant 40. They're the only ones that have been targeted 40 times or more, and he leads the league in receptions with 31, one ahead of Antonio Brown. So that's going to continue, but the people are coming back. They're slowly but surely getting the tight ends back. They got Will Fuller back. Lamar Miller, now when you add all of those together, I don't even say extra. You like the way he runs the ball and catches the ball out of the backfield. So it's all rounding into shape with people getting back from being injured. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be was a big, he got a whole lot of that because of it while some guys were out. And he's going to be a major impact on this offense. If that defense steps up to number 1 like they were last year, this team, a lot of people maybe think won't skip a beat and just winning the division and maybe going a little farther, all with a rookie quarterback who seems kind of very poised and kind of ahead of his time from that standpoint. We'll see. He'll still make rookie mistakes along the way, but pretty darn good grade right now.
I mean, listen, how crazy is this league? If we had told you after that first game when they were just obliterated at home by Jacksonville that they would bounce back, win 2 of their next 3, including bringing in Deshaun Watson as the starter on the short week on that Thursday, and their one loss was by a hair in New England in a game in which their quarterback played more than well enough to win. No one would have believed it at the time. So it's been a crazy start to their season. Mike and Mike were brought to you in part by Upside. Now save big on travel. Get a big gift card with every trip you buy. You will love Upside.com. That's Upside.com. Let's look at some of the Twitter here. Jonathan tweets, the Dallas Cowboys look so average and it's going to get worse. Look forward to 8-8 this year and no playoffs.
Which is amazing because it's the same team, especially on offense, is it not? Where is it different? There's one difference on the O-line where Collins was the left guard. He went to right tackle. Last night it was Jonathan Cooper. By the way, that line yesterday that started, Jonathan Cooper was in at left guard. Jonathan Cooper was a former first-round pick of the Arizona Cardinals. And then went to New England, and he bumped around a little bit, had injury early on. Well, Collins, who played right tackle, this guy was a first-round talent who, with the issues that went on in college, he ended up not being drafted. He was a first-round quality player. They basically have 5 first-round, and we know Zach Martin and Frederick, the center, and Smith, the left tackle, were all first-round. They basically have 5 first-rounders on that offensive line. So that was the only difference there on offense is on the offensive line. Receiving core basically, the same, running back the same. And it just doesn't look the same right now. Defensively, we were talking about how well they were doing, especially getting to the quarterback. But boy, oh boy, something just not clicking like it was last year.
They had a little magic, and it's hard to put your finger on it, but I'm thinking back to a couple of games they won last year, particularly one in Pittsburgh, where I felt like whatever happened, they would have the ball last. They would have the time of possession. Everything kind of bounced their way, and so far this year it hasn't looked that way. Despite, I do not believe there's a great team in that division. I think the Eagles are good. Let's see what Washington does tonight in Kansas City.
Are you done with the Giants yet? Or are you still expecting them to?
Look, 0-4, you're buried. I mean, there's nothing else you can do. The Giants, and look, I mean, they're losing everywhere that you can lose games as well. The Giants are finding ways to lose, whether they're close or not close, whether their offense gets going, and sometimes it doesn't. Eli is running for 14-yard touchdowns. Their offense just doesn't look nearly as good as you'd think it would be. Brandon Marshall, what's going on? The defense is really good, but it's not Denver good. It's good, and I think sometimes they get a little bit frustrated. No, I think you have to pull the plug on the Giants.
Absolutely.
I think they're buried.
And you're right about that. Dallas, again, Dallas scores 30 points. You think if you score 30 points, you should be good enough to win, right? And there's, the Rams scoring 35. Dallas ran for a lot of yards yesterday. It was the first time they really looked like, from a rushing standpoint, the Cowboys of old, rushing. Well, they rushed for 189 yards on 27 carries. That looked like the running attack. But the defense, who we had started talking up a little bit, gives up 35.
John Gibson tweets at me, Greeny, I hope my New York Jets can play the Patriots while this defense is playing this bad. And so let's make that Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Quickly on the Jets, and I want to mostly focus this on that New England defense. But I will give them a lot of credit, the players and the coaches. There is no question people will use the word tanking. What tanking means is that the front office, the organization, has generally made a decision. We can't compete right now. Let's cut loose a bunch of salary. Let's play a bunch of young guys, get high draft picks, and move it forward from there. The coaches and the players are trying, and I give them a lot of credit. They're playing tough. They're playing hard. They're not very good, but they have more good young players, particularly on that defense, than maybe I realized. The safety they drafted
Jamal Adams.
Oh my God,
fantastic!
Oh, yeah. He is unbelievable. Yeah. And McCown is a guy who can sort of hold the fort down. The Jets, they destroyed Jacksonville yesterday. The game winds up almost being a tie, and yet the Jets, they completely outplayed Jacksonville all day. They gave them their 10 points in the fourth quarter that otherwise made that a game. The Jets really outplayed them all day long yesterday. So I give those players a lot of credit, and their coach is winning me over just with how hard the players are playing.
Yeah, they are. A couple of long runs. Powell gets that 75-yard run. The kid McGuire, a 69-yard run. So 2 long touchdown runs. They ran it well yesterday, even other than that. So, yeah, that wasn't the prettiest game in little Jacksonville. Boy, you look at them and you go, wow, look at, ton of sacks still on defense for the year counting up. But, the offense, every now and then they look good. Sometimes they try and do it without having to use Bortles. Bortles looks good very rarely. I still think it's the last year he's going to be the quarterback of this team if he even makes it through the season. And then we'll see where they go. It's a team that's building, I think, for the future with a lot of players that they have, but they're just too inconsistent, right? And the Jets, well, you've explained them. That's exactly what's going on with them. So you just kind of take what you get this year with them.
That said, let's get into the Patriots, which was the second half of that tweet. And we mentioned the Patriots have allowed more points through 4 games this season than any team in the league except for Indianapolis. And they were one brilliant Tom Brady comeback against Houston 2 weeks ago away from being 1-3 right now. And they find themselves looking up at Buffalo in the division for whatever that's worth after 4 games of the season. It obviously isn't worth a whole lot. But I was sent this note here. Jason Lockenfora, who covers football for CBS, wrote the following. You tell me what you think of this on the New England defense. This isn't a December defense, much less a January one. The front 7 is downright miserable. Yes, Belichick can develop a player or 2 on the fly, and he'll scheme some stuff up. But enough football people I really trust view this defense as a massive malady, the likes of which even a near-perfect performance from Brady every week cannot overcome. He writes, the Patriots should have traded Jimmy Garoppolo to the Browns or some other hapless franchise for a bonanza of draft picks in the offseason. And if they want to salvage their 2017 campaign and flirt with another Lombardi trophy and truly capitalize on Brady's enduring greatness, they must strongly consider moving the young passer now. Desperate times call for desperate measures. The Patriots still have at least a few more weeks to reap ultimate reward for Garoppolo, and to do so without having to apply a franchise tag first.
Well, there's a difference. At first he says to trade him for a bunch of draft picks. That doesn't do you any good this year.
He's saying they could have traded him for draft picks.
Still wouldn't have done you
now
any good.
He's saying trade him for defense.
Yeah, even back then, if you traded him for a bunch of draft picks, don't expect a bunch of defensive draft picks to come up and make your defense great their rookie year. That's no. I completely disagree with that. Now, if you're looking toward the future for that, then I get it. But this is a team that wants to win now because you don't know how many years Brady has left. So I would understand why you're not going to try and grab a ton of draft picks to try and be a great team right now. It's just. I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense to think, oh, yeah, let's get 3 or 4 extra draft picks, and that's going to make our defense great. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have rookies coming together, starting on a defense, doing something like that. Now, if you trade him for pieces, for actual veteran players, that obviously another team is willing to give up, so they might not think as well of him. But we've certainly seen Bill Belichick bring in veterans that have done well. Some have not, and some have done well. I could understand that route, going to try and bring in guys that have played in the league and fit as pieces on this puzzle. Because other than that, what I said earlier stands, and anybody who's played knows that. These are the pieces you're dealing with. Don't expect them all of a sudden to turn into all-pro players. It's going to have to be, they're going to have to improve some, and you can, but there's even going to be a ceiling for that. And then schematically, they're going to have to do better. Listen, when you're getting guys wide open, those are mental breakdowns in coverage or lack of communication, amongst the 11 on defense, probably more the secondary and linebackers than anything else. So that stuff can all be cleaned up. Then you can be in the right place at the right time, and now is the other team just better than you? Are they jumping higher than you? Are they high-pointing the ball? Are they making the catch even though you're covering them? Are you there to make a tackle and you're missing the tackle? That's things you have to look at as well of, okay, physically we need to get better there, and then X's and O-wise, we're not a good defense. And one of the reasons we're not is the mistakes we're making with communication. That just compounds a physical problem as well.
Listen, to me, the conversation is madness. They didn't trade Garoppolo because Belichick has identified him as the quarterback of the future. You don't trade the quarterback of the future for a collection of defensive pieces that you might be able to get in October. That does not strike me as the way that you go. I'm not saying a team wouldn't franchise its own future to try and get him if they believe he's a franchise quarterback. Cleveland has basically 2 drafts worth of picks.
Yes, they do.
Coming up next year, and a lot of other teams I think would do it as well.
But they are in 2 different spots, Cleveland and New England.
I would personally bet on Belichick's ability to put together enough from this defensive unit to give them a chance to compete as this season goes on before I would even consider doing it. You don't trade a piece of that value, in my opinion, in the middle of a season when you're doing it under these kind of circumstances. That you do it when you have if you're going to get a treasure trove of draft picks during the offseason. Yeah, the only way I'd consider.
And that wasn't going to do them any good this year. So I'm with you on that. They're going to be, listen, Patriot fans, you're going to be living on the edge of your seat this year. You're going to need your offense to score a lot of points. And then when they do, you're going to hold your breath a little bit when the defense is on the field. We see it right now. Again, it can certainly get better, but don't expect, again, worst to first better. You're going to have an offense that can score a lot of points, and you have Tom Brady. So it's like we say with Aaron Rodgers. You got a chance. You have the greatest quarterback to play, and Tom Brady, he's got some good weapons around him. You got a chance. But, that defense is going to certainly keep the pressure on the offense to score a lot of points.
All right, Straight Talk Wireless nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Jeff Saturday will be in our studio a little less than 15 minutes from now. We'll get back to more NFL conversation when he joins us. Meanwhile, just a ton of other things to get to this morning. Suspended Louisville basketball coach Rick Pitino, who, again, suspended is really a misnomer. I understand that officially he is right now under suspension, but he's no longer the coach at Louisville. And everybody knows it. In his first interview since being put on unpaid leave last week, said to the Louisville Courier-Journal that he is selling his house in Louisville and laying low while vowing that he would be vindicated of allegations made by federal investigators in a fraud and corruption case. Here are some of the quotes from Pitino. Quote, "Right now it's in the lawyer's hands. I went to Miami. I'm selling my house in Louisville. I love David Padgett, who has been named the coach for the time being. I love the boys. I hope they win the national championship. I'm not doing anything but laying low." When asked if he is coach 2 in the federal report, as it has been reported that he is, Pitino said, quote, "It doesn't matter if I am or not." He is in no way acknowledging having been involved in this at all, and vows that he will be vindicated when all is said and done.
Again, very difficult to think these last two major issues. A, you can believe that he didn't know anything about him, and then B, if he did know anything about him, what does that say? Two major issues going on, one involving obviously now the court system, and not just the NCAA.
Here's the one thing I would say is that the differentiation may be, and I'm not, this is something we'd have to ask a lawyer, but the difference might be firing with cause or not.
Oh, without question.
Right, that's the difference. If you can plausibly say I didn't know,
yes,
then I think you can say, so give me my $40 million. And if you are the person who was there and who clearly, if it can be shown practically without a shadow of a doubt that you knew about this, then that probably is easily fireable with cause.
Now, where does that come into play where that rule has been changed to you can't just plead ignorance anymore?
Coaching accountability. Again, that's an NCAA rule, but how does that factor into the wording in his contract? That I don't know.
And really quickly, the tentacles of this, the player involved in this from Louisville that was supposedly alleged to receive $100,000, Brian Bowen, he's hired a Miami-based attorney with hopes of gaining reinstatement by the NCAA. So there's a lot of avenues to this. So this is a guy that supposedly got the $100,000 cash supplied by Adidas on behalf of Cardinals coach Rick Pitino, coach 2, as Greeny just mentioned in the report. So he's this player is now trying to get reinstated. So there's a lot of moving parts.
Listen, you know me. I don't believe that kid, I believe that kid is a part of the system. And you know that I believe he should be able to take that money. That said, there's no school that's going to play him this year, right? I mean, when you consider all the stuff that's going around him, any whether it's Louisville or anybody else,
reinstated
that's my point.
To.
My point is, if he's suing to be reinstated to hopes of playing this year, is a team going to play him? I mean, knowing that this stuff is out there.
Oh, no, not unless nothing will happen with this guy until everything is over. Everything has been decided.
That's what I'm saying. So
it's going to be tough.
Right now, it feels to me, unless there's something in this that I'm missing, like he should go the route of finding a trainer and working with him spending the year getting ready for next year's NBA
quickly,
draft.
What I don't know is all his stuff involved. Is it just NCAA stuff or is it FBI stuff? I mean, if it's NCAA stuff and he gets cleared, he gets reinstated, well, then end of story. But I don't know how much of legally where he is or NCAA where he is.
All right, we'll see. Again, those circumstances, that whole situation is ridiculous, and people continue to say it feels just like the tip of the iceberg.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
All right, back to talking football here. Booger McFarland still to come. Donovan McNabb later. Carl Douglas, a former attorney for O.J. Simpson, will join us later. But right now, Jeff Saturday is here, as he is every Monday, looking back on the Sunday NFL action. Good morning, Jeff Saturday.
Good morning.
We're going to try and run through as many things as we can with you here quickly. And let's just start with that New England defense, which has been the subject of so much of the conversation. When you see missed assignments, receivers running free, communication errors in the secondary in particular, and not a lot of pass rush from that group up front. That's not what you're accustomed to dealing with all the years you played with the Colts against them. Is that stuff that can get fixed? Is that stuff that Belichick and Patricia and his staff can look at and get fixed?
No, they can definitely get it fixed. Your issue is it started in week one with the Chiefs of not setting the edge. You saw so many guys being able to run outside. You see Hightower, they move him to the edge. I'm assuming to try to help that principle. And the crazy part is when you play a Bill Belichick defense, it was always built on edge setters. I mean, every time you played him, whether it was the Vrabels of the world, McGinnis, I mean, you go through name after name of these guys were never going to let you get outside. They would turn it back inside where all the tacklers can come and make the plays. So what you're seeing is once teams get outside of that tight end box, it's tough to tackle. We all know that, in open space. And then they're making mental errors on the backside. Receivers running free. And then the calls, there were a couple iffies, the hands to the face deal on the receiver outside. I get it. Like, is it true to the rule? It is true to the rule. It's tough. One of them I thought was really, really a stretch. The other one was pretty legitimate, but again, away from it, it's those things are going to mount against you though. And so when you can't stop anybody, all those things come into play.
So let's put it. And Ninkovich is another one, a guy that was on the edge, who just retired, could set the edge very well. But so let's talk, because I tried to talk at it from what you can change schematically. All of a sudden, you're not getting Pro Bowlers sitting on the street that say, hey, come in and play. So this is what you have. So the communication has to be better. Execution has to be better. It's one thing to just miss a tackle or have a guy covered and just have him outperform you. It's another thing to not be in the right place. I mean, that's death on the field. So go to the offensive side. We've done a lot of offensive line talk of if you have a bad O-line, what can you do? What can you change? You can't really – you can shift your personnel around, like they're doing with the Giants and others, but you can't really change a whole lot. But schematically, you have to start thinking of maybe doing different things to protect players, do you not? And that's something they can do defensively, schematically to try and help out?
Yeah, you and I both are. So however you're going to have to do it, whether you have to rush 3, drop 8, you're going to give the quarterback more time, but at least you'll fill the zones in the backside of, hey, we can break on the ball, keep our eyes on the quarterback. But Belichick will find a way. I mean, the one thing about him, I would say you can't hit the panic button on him, because if there's a coach, Matt Patricia, give him a ton of credit as well. They will find ways to get their guys back in position. The funny part is it may not be with the crew that's on the field now. They may find young guys. Hey, listen, if you're not doing your job, they're going to find somebody to play who all they want you to do is this. Just do that one job and you'll be fine. I think that's what they'll go back to. They'll simplify it as opposed to adding to it.
Jeff Saturday here with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Give me some straight talk on this Denver defense. Oof. I gave you the stat earlier this morning. These 4 running backs thus far this season have faced the Broncos: Melvin Gordon, Zeke Elliott, LaShawn McCoy, Marshawn Lynch. They have not rushed combined for 100 yards. Those 4 guys combined have run for 95 yards on 50 carries and no touchdowns. So we think of Denver as rushing the passer and Von Miller and all of that. They've become the best run defense in the NFL, the best defense in the NFL. What are we seeing in Denver right now?
The no-fly zone should get a lot of credit for that run defense as well, because what they're doing is they are challenging you on the outside. Chris Harris Jr., Talib, Roby, Stewart, even at the safety, all of those guys. Trust them that they're going to do their job on the back end. So you can put 7 in the box. If you know they're going to try to load you up with tight ends, you can get 8 down in there. But they are physically managed. Wolf is playing very good football, but these guys are understanding they can pin their ears back and get after it. Now, the Raiders gave them a ton of help, only running it 15 times. At some point, and again, same thing for the Cowboys, right? When they got stuffed, they try to get out of what they do well. The Raiders actually had a chance yesterday, which I was surprised. In the backfield, you saw Cook, their tight end. He had one tough catch in the end zone, but could have made it, right? Hit his hands. He's leaning back over his shoulder. Way, but and then you had Cooper have another drop. And then you have another one to Cook. It should have been a touchdown. I mean, he's wide open in the end zone.
Right through his hands.
Right through his hands. Yep. So, and that's E.J. Manuel, who's basically 8 for 8 before that. So as good as this Denver defense is, and they are very good, there was an opportunity for the Raiders to make this happen. So from the Broncos side, as good as that defense is, something's got to happen with that offense to put some points on to really put teams away.
I agree. Crabtree was out this game. Cooper had his 7th drop of the year, leads the league in that, and there were other drops as well. 2 3-1 teams, 1 from each conference. I'm telling you, only 1 can make the playoffs. Buffalo Bills, Los Angeles Rams.
Oh man, I'll go Rams.
Will you?
I will. I'll go. And here's why. Defensively, we knew they're good. They're a good football team. I love Wade. I mean, listen, he's going to get you right. They got these guys going, and Gurley I have been so impressed with Gurley. And McVay yesterday is talking. He don't even talk about Gurley. He gives Goff credit, offensive line credit, which I love. You should. but this football team believes in what they can do. And with Austin kind of coming across in that motion, being able to hand it to him some, feed it to Gurley, and he's getting downhill and he's making athletic plays, and then he has almost 100 yards rushing. He's beating you all over the field. You got to feel really good if you're the Rams. And I think, listen, as ugly as it looks for New England, until you knock them off, I'm saying from the Bills' perspective, that's a tough mountain to climb.
Here's where I disagree a bit on the Rams, because you look at that defense and you think, boy, they're playing really well, and at times they are. There's only 4 teams in the NFL who have given up more points than them.
Right.
They've given up 105 points. That's what worries me, is forcing that offense while the young quarterback is doing well, forcing him to say, you got to score a lot of points every single game.
Yeah.
You know, there's one thing when the New England defense is playing bad and you're telling Tom Brady, go score me 30 points.
Light it up.
He can do that.
Yeah.
You know, Goff, who is playing well now, that's my only concern, is as the season goes on and that defense gives up points, will Goff and the offense be able to match that? That would be my only concern. Then my other concern for Buffalo is, just as you said, New England is still there and ain't going away.
Yeah, they ain't going away. Listen, Tyrod Taylor, by the way, yesterday played lights out. I mean, he extended, and he is phenomenal in play action, but plays he extended and then hitting it to Clay. Yeah. I mean, he dropped him in the bucket. Clay had a great performance himself, but give Tyrod Taylor a ton of credit. This guy is playing efficient football at the biggest moments against a really good team in the Falcons. And I mean, listen, they're a good squad. I'm not sure, to your point, I'm not sure their offense can continue to produce. Mm-hmm. At some point, everybody's going to stack the box against Shady and make the receivers beat you, not just Clay. That'll be interesting for me as it moves on.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You're talking about the Rams. There's another team in L.A., obviously, and they're playing road games at home. The Chargers were booed running out of the tunnel yesterday by a building filled with Eagles fans.
Yeah.
And I heard Phillip Rivers talking about it, and to sum up his quotes, it basically was, it is what it is, and that, I guess, is the circumstance. But as a former player, in what way does that actually affect them? They lose games the same way every single week. They lose by 2 points at the end, whether it's a missed kick or a play here or there, and that's not just this year, but it feels like it's been going on a long time. But when you don't have any home field advantage with your crowd at all, does that have an impact on the team's ability to win?
Absolutely has an impact. Listen, you're a nomad, and the issue is, it's not only are you a nomad, at home, in San Diego, what used to be your home, the kind of the stuff that was going on before that is distracting, right? I mean, think about Phillip Rivers, all the kids still staying. I mean, all of those things affect players. You don't play football in a vacuum. And so as you're getting back to it, very difficult for those guys to balance it. Now your new home in LA, everybody's booing you. You got more Eagles fans than your own fans because nobody wants to support you. Again, Phillip Rivers, I mean, sainthood's got to be approaching because all the trials that poor dude goes through, again, plays pretty decent. It's an awful thing to watch because at some point they're going to find a way to lose it, and that's just disappointing. But for those guys, not having the momentum of a home crowd. I mean, there is something, too, when you're on defense and it's so deafening that offensive line can't hear, gives your defensive line a good jump. And think about what their 2 rushers, with Bosa and Ingram, how much of an advantage it is when the crowd is deafening and the offensive line can't hear and communicate. It makes a huge impact on those type of plays, and they're never getting the advantage of that.
They're never going to, because you have to win as well. The Rams are getting fans there as they're winning and kind of looking good, but for the Chargers, wow, what does the future hold there?
Chargers have lost 7 consecutive home games, obviously doing that over the course of 2 different cities. Jeff Saturday in our studio. We've opened every hour this morning just mentioning and discussing briefly that unimaginably tragic circumstances in Las Vegas that took place overnight and continue to unfold this morning. I know, Jeff, you wanted to say a quick word about it as well.
Just praying and thinking about everybody out in Las Vegas. I mean, just what an awful situation. Just thank all the people, all the responders who helped, all the fellow, audience members who helped each other. I mean, as you're watching the news, you're seeing how many people are trying to help each other. Thank God that in circumstances like that, people helped each other and leaned on each other. And like I said, just praying, and our thoughts are out there with them.
It is amazing the resolve of people when situation turns just horrifically tragic, but you just hate having to talk about it.
Absolutely.
But boy, what the first responders we know are great people who are always running the wrong way and they're running into something. But for the innocent bystanders there to be helping those they see down, taking them, dragging them to cover and then to ambulances it's really something to see. But
it's heroic.
It's a shame they have to do something like
Absolutely.
that. No doubt.
It's the deadliest mass shooting in modern American history. Those words are very difficult to say out loud. And again, we've talked about it a bit this morning. The best we can do for you, obviously there's coverage of that to be found in so many different places. The best we can do if you want to sit here with us today is to talk about football and try and keep people's minds on other things. And so to a bad news of an entirely different sort is this Dalvin Cook injury, which is terrible for him, obviously, because he's just such a good player. And to see a rookie who's off to such a good start have that. But you look at a Viking team that was snake bit a year ago. They were 5-0 and the injuries started to pile up, and they have been off to a pretty good start this year. And to see if they get their quarterback back, and now it seems clear they're going to lose Dalvin Cook for the rest of the season.
Yes, snake bit is a great term because it seems like every time they get the train kind of going on the rails, something happens. And it's listen, it's tough when you have a non-impact injury like that for a young kid who's playing as well as he's playing. Your gut just drops. I mean, this kid has been working hard. He's been explosive. And if you think about the Vikings, you got Diggs on the outside, obviously, but you're looking for that explosive nature out of the backfield, and that's what he had provided. He had given them kind of hope with Bradford going out. Keenum's played better than everybody anticipated. They had a good thing going, so very disappointing for him. Wish him the best and getting back as soon as he can.
Latavius Murray, a guy who went there in the offseason, and then you bring in Dalvin Cook, and Murray's got to be going, are you serious? But now he's going to get every chance in the world. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards in 2015, had 41 receptions that year, so he'll get the chance to be that guy. We'll see, but boy, it is a shame for the young running back in Cook.
And Case Keenum would have the huge week the week before. Yesterday couldn't get practically anything going against the Lions, who I think are the best team in the NFC North. Okay, speaking of that division, Danny Trevathan suspended 2 games over the weekend for the hit that got so much attention in the Thursday night game against Green Bay. Mike, I know you talked about it all Friday morning. I wasn't here. Jeff, what's your reaction to the 2-game suspension?
Yeah, think it's too much. I mean, 2-game suspension for a guy who's never had any incident before and the way that he's played this game. And here's the situation. It looks brutal, and I get it, right? Mouthpieces flying, it's head-to-head, it's all of those things. But you got a guy in a pile, and I hear people talking about, forward progress. I think even one of the referees talked about forward progress. I will tell you as a player, we never talk about forward progress. You play to the whistle, and that's the bottom line of every football player who's ever played our game. What's crazy in that situation, especially in the red zone, is you can go back and watch 25 plays where offensive linemen will come into a pile like that, and we'll drive the pile to get an extra 2 or 3 yards. So to ask a defensive player to worry about forward progress in the middle of the field, this isn't a sideline play. This is a guy being held up, and no one's blown the whistle yet. And as he's going through it, and again, when a guy's getting tackled, you don't know when his head is going to drop and not drop. Is it unfortunate? Absolutely. You don't ever want to see those type of hits between head-to-head from guys. But to suspend a guy who doesn't have a reputation for doing this, he has never been one of those guys that you've ever talked about being dirty. Whether in Denver, no matter what, and to get 2 games right off the jump, I thought they went overboard. And again, I understand the optics, mouthpieces getting knocked out, all those things. But I will tell you, in the games I watched yesterday, I saw very similar hits on 2 or 3 different occasions, not even a flag.
I'll agree with 99% of everything you said. And listen, when I was playing, you lived for moments like that.
Right.
The whistle hadn't played. He absolutely wreck him. That's what we would try and do. But in this day and age, the lead, and I don't think it's about forward progress or the whistle not sounding. It's because he dropped his head.
Yeah.
And that's what they want out of the league. So if they're going to be serious about saying, we want this to end, if he would have hit him like that but used his shoulder first, would have been no flag, would have been no suspension. They want him to not drop his head, put it down, and lead with his head. I think that is completely what this thing is about.
Go watch the games yesterday. I'm telling you, there was some hits just like it.
It's a conversation I'd love to continue. I have to let Jeff go. Do SportsCenter. We're jam-packed. Booger McFarland's on his way. Coming up next, stay with us, talking football and more on a Monday morning with Mike and Mike. Jeff, thanks.
Thanks.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.